Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries about partnerships and channel on a weekly basis. My name's Alex Whitford. I'm the VP of Revenue here at Chanext, and this week I'm excited to welcome our special guest, Eric. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm recording one of the first podcasts of the new year, so I've had a month off from recording. So if I forget how to talk or forget what the hell the channel is, you're going to have to, help me along the way, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Awesome. Maybe for the uninitiated, Eric, you'll be able to give us a little bit of rundown who you are, where you've come from.
Sure. Well, I'm the VP of Channel and Community here at Pax8. Fairly new, I guess. I've been at Pax8 now for just over 3 months. Prior to that, I spent a couple years over at ScalePad, running their channel team. I spent 6, 7 years over at Datto, being on their events team and leading a charge there. And then prior to that, I spent 9 years at an MSP. At the MSP, I did everything except for the engineering. So sales, marketing, operations, you name it. And just loved this industry, loved the space, and continued to evolve and find my niche.
Awesome. So you've completed channel bingo because you've done partner, vendor, and something in the middle. So that's awesome because that means you've got that sort of full experience cycle. I'd love to understand how that's impacted your sort of strategy and execution now that you're at Pax8.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives an advantage. Anybody that has true MSP experience knows what it's like living in those shoes. The challenges, the restless nights, the long hours, and the panic. I mean, if you think about an MSP, they are the unsung heroes for small to medium sized businesses all over the globe, where they're helping those businesses operate, helping them run, and making sure that their technology is working well for them. So it gave me the advantage of just knowing what it was like doing all of that and viewing things a bit differently from the typical vendor. I'm not shy about sharing that. I still boast that, hey, I spent 9 years at an MSP, and here's what I used to deal with. It's a while back, but the challenges have evolved. The challenges are a bit different, but it's still the same hard work. And I bring that into everything that I do on the vendor side. How can I offer help to people that were just like me a few years back?
No, I think that's awesome because I think true sort of relationships and partnerships actually start from understanding, right? And so you can only help a partner in the right way if you really understand what they're going through. And hey, you've got a 6-year head start, so that's great. You really understand the stresses. Maybe I'd love to understand because I've spoken to lots of your team in Berlin when I was out at the event, and really Pax8 seem to be doing something quite special. I think I also come from that sort of distribution world, and it can be quite order takery in that sort of transactional motion. It seems that Pax8 are trying to flip that on its head. Talk to me about what you envision Pax8's most transformative model looks like today.
Good question. So I had my eyes on Pax8 since the very beginning. They came in years back, and we say this when we present. The second slide after we introduce ourselves is the word disruption. And coming into the space as the old distribution model and disrupting it, like you said, truly flipping it on its head because of the partner enablement. That's where we are significantly different. The added value, the benefits to MSPs of working with Pax8 versus the typical disties that are out there. But I had my eye on Pax8, and it had me kind of scratching my head going, who is Pax8 and what is a cloud distributor? What is this? What's a cloud marketplace? And I saw the momentum that they were building, that we were building over the years. And the number one thing that stood out to me was the community. MSPs love Pax8. and it is that value add that we provide, the enablement, the intangibles that typical disties aren't doing. So that was ultimately what led me to look at this company and figure out, okay, there's something definitely here. Um, and then my old boss at Datto, Rob Ray, industry vet and pillar in the communities, he went over to Pax8 a little while back, and I told him, I said, when I left working with him at Datto, I told him, if you ever have a role for me somewhere else, let me know. And a couple years later, here we are.
Awesome. Well, it's funny you mentioned Rob, because I gave him some feedback when I met him face to face at your event in Berlin.
Hmm.
I spoke to a load of MSPs. You hosted a great European event, and lots of MSPs came to meet lots of the brands that you work with, and I was amazed at, this is a soft word, but the vibe, right? People were really enjoying themselves. They were open. They were collaborating with some of their competitors, which I always find fascinating to see that. To see that MSPs are willing to sort of open book and share secrets with people who feasibly could be competing with them. But I can imagine that creating and sort of organizing events like that is immensely powerful for the Pax8 brand. Two-tier question: how the hell do you foster that vibe? And secondly, what's it doing for your brand?
Um, I'll answer the second part first. I mean, it's truly elevated it. The That was right when I had first joined Pax8. So my first time meeting the rest of the executive team and being with everybody was in Berlin at Beyond. And the momentum that it had built, and like you said, the vibe, it's similar to some of the events that we have seen here in the States, um, and then some, and that buzz that was just humming along the floor of people having a good time, like you said, collaborating on things and opening the conversations up to even their competitors. I put myself in the shoes of an MSP, and I remember going to some of these events when back then, and I went to events with a couple of set goals. And the number one goal was to meet somebody else that does exactly what I do, that I could foster a relationship with and learn from. And that's what we saw in Berlin is a lot of MSPs that were just communicating to each other, helping each other. That's the beautiful thing about this industry, is people are just out there helping each other, and you learn from others' mistakes, and they try to guide you so you don't make the same mistakes. But yeah, the vibe that was happening there, and how we did it, it's not even so much Pax8, it's the people. The people did it. We listen to our partners. We know what they're looking for, what they want, and we put on a top tier event, and people signed up for the next one right away. We have our North America conference, which we still get quite a few global folks there, in June, and then we announced our European conference in Amsterdam, and people were signing up immediately, going, "This was the best event I've been to, so let's run it back."
No, I completely understand why. I think one of the things that I sort of immensely impressed me were some of the keynotes, right? And we had extremely senior, right from the top, people coming from Pax8, which I know sometimes Europe can feel a little bit like the ugly sibling, because at some other events you've got really senior people in the US and maybe some more of the junior to media. But no, Pax8 was out in force showing the love to the European MSPs, and I got lots of feedback that they were responding really, really well, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate here at Pax8 that a lot of the decision makers, a lot of the people who behind the scenes are the ones building all of this, are the ones that have been in the space, in the event space, for years. And when we go to events, we learn just as much. On the vendor side, we learn what the attendees are looking for, what they like, what they want to see, what content people can deliver to them. And every single show we pick something, and we evolve on that, and we bring it to what we do. So the folks that put on Beyond are just, they're fantastic, and it's a labor of love, and it takes a full year of planning, and the result is happy partners.
Well, it really came out, right? And labor of love is true. I've been to these events. I've helped organize these events when I was in distribution world, and it is a huge amount of work. But the sort of love and enjoyment that the team obviously put in came out in the event, which was awesome to see.
Mm. Yep.
Now, maybe pivoting slightly to some more of the mechanical pieces. I know from your time in Datto, you built an MDF program that was very, very successful. Interestingly, and again, maybe very disruptively, you're actually building an MDF program within Pax8. Talk to me about how that strategy came, because that's quite a disruptive and different thing for a cloud distributor to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the days at Datto and that MDF program, um, my boss Rob, when Rob and I were talking, and he told me, he said, build MDF and run MDF. Uh, he told our whole team that as an MSP would want to receive it. Like, what is in it for them? You have to put the MSP first and foremost. How can they utilize the funding available? How can they grow? And we had something that was really special. I am so passionate about MDF. I mean, it's from an MSP standpoint, it's free money, and then you get people that are doing this every day. The team we had at Datto was out there doing these presentations, building these campaigns, these events, and knowing what works and what doesn't work, and then sharing that and working with these partners and building something pretty cool. And for me, the passion in it was seeing that MSP sell something as a result and grow, and then come back to me saying, hey, because of that presentation you did, or because of that campaign you helped us with, we got 5 new clients. Like, it's fantastic. Fast forward to now, I had asked, once again, I asked Rob, I said, Rob, do you mind if I take over MDF? Because Pax8 has an MDF program even prior to me starting. And it was kind of just, I don't want to say ad hoc, but in motion. There was people that were partners utilizing it in all different facets. And I just said, hey, can I take this over? Can I own it? Can I revamp the process? Make this easier for partners, make it easier for the vendors that are inside of our marketplace, and truly, again, build something really cool. In my previous experience, we saw for every MDF dollar that we spent, we generated, as a vendor, generated 5. So 5x multiplier, which is even more for the MSPs, because typically we're paying for most, if not all, of whatever that campaign is. So for on the MSP side, you're looking at a 10x multiplier of their investment, and you factor in time and all of that. But there's some momentum behind that. There's ways to truly build a larger, stronger base of clients for MSPs, and that's what I set out to do. And it's still ongoing. I'm working on it right now, and hopefully rolling out this MDF 2.0 process and program in the very near future.
And it's funny because I've got a list of questions in front of me, and the question literally reads: "You've consistently talked about putting the MSP first," which, ironically, you just quoted about a minute and a half ago. So I'd love to understand how that sort of key guiding principle helps drive the vision for where Pax8 is headed, and what's going to change in that channel ecosystem.
It goes back to that word disruption. And when you think of the typical disty model of the others that are out there, I hate to say it, but it's more order takers. It's someplace an MSP goes to, and hey, I need to purchase this. I have some software licensing I need to buy, and I have some hardware I need to buy, and they go to their distributors. Pax8 has that true MSP focus. Like, okay, well, what else can we do? How do we bring in more value and build this strong community? And going back to your very first question about my experience and being an MSP, a lot of the folks at Pax8 are former MSPs, former MSP workers, former MSP owners, and that's the value add is the education that they bring. So we have a whole we have a peer group program where it's led by former MSP owners that are going, here's what we went through, and here's the mistakes that you guys should not be making, and then being, again, using the word collaborative and helping grow. So that is truly ingrained in everything we do at Pax8 is how do the partners feel? How do we make this MSP focused above anything else? And it's great.
It's really interesting because sometimes I think the best sort of strategic visions and creative and all of these things that sound like they're really complicated to build actually start from a really easy starting place, which is, what's the customer actually need? And in your world, the customer is the MSP, right? And I think the thing that I'm really fascinated about, and I spend a lot of time in my world at Chanex talking about as VP of revenue, is we talk a lot about campaigns in a box and people providing campaigns in a box. But if you go and speak to the average MSP, they have no idea even how to use them. They don't have the resource. And so you end up solving the problem that doesn't exist because it's a completely different problem. If you don't have that feedback loop, you never get that true understanding. Outside of the sort of senior leaders having come from that space, I can imagine you need to foster a culture that demands that the Pax8 team are constantly asking for that feedback. How do you go about encouraging and building that culture? I know it's something that a lot of our listeners will be really keen to understand how they can embed that in their organizations.
I think the biggest thing is asking and then listening. Talking to our partners. What can we be doing better? What are we doing bad? What needs to improve? And I just had this conversation last month. I was with a partner of ours who I've known him for years, and he's a good friend of mine. And we sat down, and he's like, Eric, I got to tell you, there's some things that I think you guys could be doing better. And he just let me have it. And he was like, hey, here's some ideas that I have. And I take that info and I run straight to the top. And I'm going, hey guys, we just had a partner who told me this. First of all, let's make sure he's feeling the love and that we're taking care of him. And then second, what can we change in what we're doing from a support standpoint, from an enablement standpoint, and work some of his ideas into our next gen offering for him. So it's listening and it's having those conversations. Some of them are difficult, some of them are easy and fun, but it's soliciting the feedback. And then as far as internally, I think it's just it's relationship building on the sales side of the thing, sales side of the house. So from a rep standpoint, learn everything you can about your partner and become friends. When I go back to my days of being an MSP, my most favorite rep, and I'm not because I used to work there and was drinking the Kool-Aid, but was my Datto rep. And he was my favorite rep because he called me and he would ask me a series of questions that had nothing to do with business. And it was about me personally. He got to know me personally. We built this bond where we were talking a couple days a week. And it was just, hey, how was your weekend? What'd you guys do? How's the family? And then we would talk about business. And then it was just a comfortable atmosphere where I could be like, you know what? Here's what I need from you. Here's how you can help me. And from an MSP level, what you were saying as far as solving some of the challenges that they don't even know that they have yet, sales and marketing is a huge challenge, and growing their client list and their base and having those very rudimentary sales 101 conversations and helping them it's what we do, and it's ingrained in every one of the folks on our team, and again, just having these conversations with partners, getting to know them, and then building.
It's funny, right? Because sometimes we as salespeople have a tendency to try and avoid some of those more painful conversations. But there's 3 wins when you go and get that feedback. The first win is you take that feedback internally and it turns out as a good idea. So you improve as a business. So that's good. Second win is if the MSP sees that you enacted on their feedback, their loyalty is so strong because they can see that you really listen and care. And then the third is we're an ecosystem. Your reputation builds when you do those good things, right? And so I would really encourage, whether you're senior, junior, media, how can you go and garner that feedback consistently and then actually do something about it? Because the rewards are endless if you can get it done as a flywheel motion consistently.
Absolutely. And And another thing too, which whether this helps other vendors, anybody in this space, is the different avenues to pay attention to, the different mediums of communication. I mean, I see a ton of it in social media. We all see the Reddit threads, we all see the Facebook groups, but the availability for your average small MSP who's just starting, that can go out there and then solicit um, some feedback, and then you get somebody like Rob Ray, who's been in the space forever, commenting within a few minutes. And that's true. You don't really see that in a lot of other industries, where somebody can get that instant feedback, that instant communication from somebody going, hey, you know what, let me go figure this out for you, and I'll be in touch. Here's my email address, let's talk. So it's opening up not just to those one-on-one conversations, but paying attention to all that's out there in the ether. And it can be daunting, and it could be cumbersome, but that's what makes MSPs feel the love and feel listened to.
Awesome, Eric. Well, at Partnerships Unraveled, we love feedback. We love it so much. We always ask our current guest to feedback who they think our next guest should be. I know you have someone in mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My very good friend, former coworker with me, and somebody I'm very close with, Michael DePalma, Senior VP of Kaseya. And I gave him a heads up that you guys would be in touch, and you guys are going to love him. That's for sure.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you so much for the recommendation, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge here today.
Absolutely. Anytime.